So, Johnny, thank you so much for joining me here today to share your wisdom, your stories with the world. Obviously, it's National Mentoring Day coming up soon as well, and you are a national treasure. I'm going to give a little brief bio that you said to keep it short, but I'm not sure I can keep it short. For over 45 years, you've been inspiring thousands and thousands of young people, people of all ages, to have careers in STEM, science, engineering, maths. Hugely successful comedian for over 17 years, and obviously written children's series and factual writing and so many books. I've got a couple here. Obviously ambassador for British engineering throughout the 1990s as well. You've worked for British Gas, National Grid, I found out today, BAE Systems, Rolls-Royce. The list goes on and on. You've received over 7 honorary doctorates from the Royal Academy of Engineering Medal for promoting engineering careers, and the list just goes on and on. And recently I did smile when I found out that you actually did Strictly Come Dancing
Yes,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, I like Strictly more than it like me. So let's not go any further with that.
Still ever the comedian. So I can't wait to hear your stories that must be told. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us ahead of National Mentoring Day celebration, the greatest celebration of mentoring in the world, happening each year on the 27th of October. I'd love to ask you some questions and, of course, hear all your wonderful stories as well. So with that, may I ask you a few questions?
You can.
Good, good. Okay. So I understand that your father was a comedian, and when we met each other in person, you mentioned that he was a great influence on your life. How did he influence you? What did he teach you?
Well, he was never a comedian. He was a very funny man. He was just funny all the time, but he never got the chance. He never had a
Oh,
decent break in his life, really. And so he never got the chance to be a comedian, which he wanted to be. But he was always funny and inspired me to be funny. But he also had an eye on education, even though he had no education himself, you know. Um, and so when I was born, he bought 8 encyclopedias, children's encyclopedia. And I read those because I had nothing else to read in my young years when I was 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that was an incredible start. He also was brilliant with mathematics, and was always thrilled to teach me mathematics. So we had double nine dominoes before I could actually hold them. And we were playing double nine dominoes. People have double six dominoes these days, and they're for wimps. Get double nine dominoes, and they're much more educational for a child, and they really are stimulating and educational. So when I went to school, I found I was immediately top in maths, basically because of my dad's influence. These days, the kids are taught too much numeracy, and numeracy should be taught nice, quick, and bright when they're very young, and then move on to other mathematics, especially geometry, which is much more um, inspiring, especially if you want to be a designer of any kind, industrial designer or educational designer or buildings designer, or an artist, indeed. Geometry is the key to that, you know. It was Leonardo da Vinci who said anyone devoid of mathematics, and he meant geometry, he meant that kind of mathematics, is as an artist is wallowing in a dark labyrinth. That's what he said.
Wow. Well, at least we have you here to bring light and shine a light on this complicated subject. He
Yeah,
sounds like a great mentor, passing on his love of comedy. And
yeah,
obviously, he passed that torch to you, and you really ran with it for
yeah.
17 years. Certainly what we do at National Mentoring Day, we believe obviously that with mentoring, it's so important to create the right environment to learn. It seems like your parents, including your mom, your dad, they created that great environment for you to learn. So perhaps
Absolutely.
in your professional life, who were the people that believed in you, especially when life got tough?
When national service came up, I had been talking to people who gave the people I liked who said, get in the forces, volunteer for everything, and if you like, sign on for 3 years because you get twice the money on day one. And when you're 18, the money you get is beer money. It's nothing else. It's beer money. So that's what I did, and I could choose RAF, and I chose even my my job, which was radar operator, because it was the shortest training and then the maximum chance of getting overseas, perhaps Singapore, perhaps Hong Kong. So where did they send me? Wales. And,
Wales. Good old Wales.
and in Wales, I was surrounded by boffins because we were doing air to ground to air and air to air missile testing and radar to track them and everything. And it was all state of the art. So I was surrounded by boffins. And that was another great influence. So the RAF was my university because I'd missed university because I'd failed at school. So the RAF, those 3 years were exactly like a university 3 years. I had one 24-hour period without a drink in 3 years, because we were trapped underground for about 20 hours. So I never got a drink that day. But it was always great fun. But we worked hard as well. And that's the thing about university. Play hard, of course, but you must do the work. You must work hard. And I did that in the RAF and it paid off. Several of my friends went into air traffic control. A friend of mine became head of the tower at Heathrow, which is why I could film there years later when Tomorrow's World were denied access to the tower. And I filmed there because my mate was in charge. And I was ex-RAF. And so all that was lovely. It was all wonderful. And it was that 3 years of expansion of my mind and my ability and the knowledge that I could, one, get on with people, two, make people laugh and have fun, but three, actually work and actually deliver some real effort that people start to appreciate. And that's what happened in the area.
And thank you for sharing that, because I made the connection there between the radio and then, of course, your whole career in going on to do communication. So perhaps that was a little bit of an early start to you.
It was, but as soon as I left the RAF, I went to Butlins. It was my intention to go to Butlins, because that Butlins, I had 3 years there, and that is Smile School. If you work at Butlins as a redcoat, it's Smile School. Everybody smiles at you, and you smile.
Learn how to be with people,
and it's lovely. And I love people because my dad loved people. My dad couldn't be in a bus queue. He never had a car, but he couldn't be in a bus queue without talking to everybody in the bus queue. And in a way, I'm rather like that. And yet, I was incredibly shy. It's a very, very strange thing. I was very, very shy. But when I was brought out of myself, then I had no trouble. And being a redcoat, you can't be shy. You just get on with it. So that's how I started as a comedian, and that was the intention, to learn how to be a comedian, because I'd seen Des O'Connor do the same thing when I was about 14. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I did the same. And that got me into comedy. I also when I was a semi-pro comic, I had to get a job in Liverpool to make up the money because I wasn't earning enough. And they gave me a job in Social Security in Liverpool. Oh. And in Social Security, I was amazed.
Be careful what you say.
I was amazed at the sheer integrity of every officer that worked at Islington in Liverpool. Their integrity was tremendous. The way they helped people who needed help was phenomenal. The way they handled people who were trying to cheat the system was exemplary, was so good. And it was just wonderful. Another wonderful education. Liverpool is such a great town. They said, why would you start as a comedian in Liverpool? Because everybody's a comedian in Liverpool, and you get response to humor in Liverpool. You don't always get response to humor in other societies, but you do in Liverpool, because Liverpool's so vibrant and so wonderful. So I had this wonderful time in Liverpool, got into comedy, and then I was away, and I was a young man earning a good few pounds every single night, driving 100 miles a day to get to the clubs, and loving every single minute of it. And it was wonderful.
And they probably gave you the truth in Liverpool as well. But
absolutely.
The raw truth. But you mentioned about communication and the fact that you're maybe introverted, and yet communication and standing up and talking to people. What would you say to a lot of young people these days? We've become very insular on our mobile phones and on game stations and things. What would you say to young people struggling, perhaps with lack of career motivation, or with their communication? What words of wisdom could you pass on to them?
If you don't communicate, you're not communicating. And if you don't
Nice.
communicate, you cannot have a successful life. And you have to communicate. So as soon as you're locked into a phone and you think that's communicating, it is not.
It's
Communicating
one
is
way.
like me talking to you now. It's interaction. It's me listening to you and talking to you and listening, and it's an interaction. You've got to have an interaction. When you're young, you've got to learn. If you're embarrassed or nervous because you're young, it is totally natural. What comes is with experience is a little confidence, a little more confidence, and then you build. That's why we do go to university. It's to learn how to learn. That's the main thing. You should have learned how to learn at school, but you may not have yet. Why? Because you're young, and you're kicking your legs in the air, as it were. So you've really got to, at some time, turn the screw on yourself and learn how to learn and communicate with other people. If you have trouble communicating with other people, you may well have trouble in every branch of your life. You've got to get on with other people. You've got to understand them. You've got to choose who is genuine and who is not genuine. You've got to know who your friends are and make friends, and realize that friendships are the most important thing in life. So when you start work, it's no good working with people and not being friends with them. You've got to be part of a team, and you've got to join a team. And that's the joy of it all. It shouldn't be something you worry about. It's the joy of it all. The joy of doing a new job and suddenly finding after a few months you're quite good at it and you're getting on and you're improving. Like a Liverpool footballer. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that this because they've just lost three or four games on the trot. But it's that effort that you put in to communicate with people, to get on with people, to learn from people, to learn what they want from you. That's the essential thing. And if you're introvert and if you're stuck on a phone, that is introversion, and you've got to be very, very careful of it. You've got to get out there. The world is for you to enjoy and see and say, I'm here, come and get me. And that's what you've got to do. But you've got to prepare yourself and set yourself up that people want to come and get you. Why? Because you're a great personality. Why? Because you're an attractive person and you're funny. Why? Because you're a great mate to be with in the pub. Why? Because they can trust you. And why can they trust you? Because you put your effort in. You put your effort in to make friends with them and be friends with them. All those things are essential. So essential.
I love that. And I think your key word for me there was the effort. You got to put the effort in. You're not getting anything back on your mobile phone. So put the effort in. You put the effort in. You went to Butlins, and that led you to have a whole career in a successful life in television and media. You met, you'd seen Des O'Connor. That was your smile school, as you say. So
Yeah.
I just think this is, you got to put in, you got to put the effort in, and then it will pay and have the results. Good communication skills are needed, as I teach communication across every aspect of your life. You want to own a business, you want to have a good relationship. It's all how you speak. So thank you for sharing that. You had some real wisdom of gold wisdom there. What advice would you give to anyone thinking about a career as perhaps in media, television, theatre? Any advice? Writing even, because I'm in prolific writing.
That's the first thing I say. If many people want to be actors. I've got 2 grandchildren of the 6, and possibly 3, possibly even 4 of the 6, who wouldn't mind being like me or Zoe. That's in my daughter Zoe. That's in. Well, beware, because it's not as easy as you think. And we, both of us, had a lot of luck, because as you work, you gain more luck because you make it. and our training, my and Zoe's, has set us up for this, and we can do it. The youngsters, my grandchildren, can't do that yet. They're showing signs, but they can't do that yet. So wait for that. And the first thing you've got to do, if you want to be an actor, is you've got to learn to write. Why? Because everything on television is written. Somebody has to write, what are we going to do with this program? How are we going to set it up? Maybe a drama, maybe a comedy, or it may be just a chat show, or it may be a game show. How do you form that game show? How do you, if you could form a game show, you make a fortune. If you could form a new game show that people will buy, it could be wonderful. So it's the effort of creation that's essential to you if you want to communicate. It's the creation. It's knowing that when you say something, it's worth saying because you've been thinking already. That's the joy of modern comedians. I find that the ones I don't like them all, but I like a lot of modern comedians because their invention is fresh for today. Wasn't the comedy that I did 20, 30 years ago. It's fresh for today. And they are switching on young people today with their ideas and their take on life today. And that is what they've learned to do. And that's why they're successful. So that effort of broadening yourself and improving yourself as you go on is unrelenting. It goes on all the time. So the thing you have to do is learn to write. And the best way to learn to write is read what other people have written and what other people have done. And then do it as well, but you do it differently. You do it with a new take. And that's invention, and that's wonderful. And suddenly you've got a career where you can invent, and it's wonderful. But that's where you've got to communicate with other people. You've got to listen to other people. You've got to follow the people you admire and note what they do, and note the great characteristics, and even note the bad characteristics, and perhaps don't make those mistakes yourself. So that learning curve, and there's so many people want to be in the communication world. There are so many. It's great. It can be very brutal. It can be very dangerous because it can drop you like a stone. And at the other hand, the only way it works is because you work at it and you improve, and people around you see you improve, and you get jobs because they see you improving, because they see you learning, and they see you have that talent. But that talent is something you have to build in yourself. The way I think to do that is to read just about everything you can. Read and read and read and learn from that. If you can't absorb information, then you can't broaden yourself. And you've got to absorb information so you yourself become a broader person, a person who knows a little more. And eventually you use that ability, that strength, and you use that, and that's what pushes you forward. Life is not easy, but it can be fun, but it's the effort that makes it fun. It's the drive that makes it fun.
You've got that drive and effort come up twice.
Right.
Recently. So you mentioned Zoe, your wonderful daughter, Zoe Ball. She's followed in your footsteps with a hugely successful career in radio and television. What lessons did you pass down to her? Were there any?
It's just, I think all my kids have the same attitude to life. They like people. They're friendly with other people, virtually all other people. We really don't make enemies at all. Even people who get up our noses, we can suffer. I love going to the pub, and I don't get on with everybody at the pub. I hope nobody's listening, but I just love being with them, and I love the change and the variety of being with new people and talking to new people, and telling my stories to a new audience. And I like that. And it's a gregariousness, and you need that. You need to love people. Zoe has this incredible talent for talking through a microphone to people and actually affecting them. It's just wonderful. It's not something I never had. That ability, I don't think I had. Zoe's got that ability in spades to talk on natural things and make it interesting. Just amazing.
Well, I've got to step in there and say, actually, I know where she gets that from, because you clearly here right now, you're able to speak about any subject, chip in about anything. And it's incredible that, you were that role model, you are that role model. And I just think what I'm hearing is that your actions speak louder than words. You were that person, and she's followed in your footsteps, and that's all credit to you. And obviously to Zoe, it's just, that's mentoring in my eyes. So yeah. Thank you. And
and then what you do with kids and kids out there who are listening to this, we adults have to let you go. We have to let you find your way. You know, we don't take you by the hand and say, here's a party with some celebs, you might get a job with these people. You don't do that. It doesn't work like that. What you do is independently, you have to build your own character, your own ability to communicate. So Woody, Zoe's son, is a DJ. Why? Well, because Fatboy Slim was not a bad DJ, or is not a bad DJ still. So Woody's following, and yet he's totally different. It's wonderful that he's totally different. And yet, one of my grandsons, Ronnie, he's already got the deck, and he's already got the ability, and he's already doing DJ jobs, and he's only 16, and so he may well go that way as well, you know. But also, he played in a school. He played Oliver in the musical Oliver, which they did at school. And is an example there of how to help people. The songs in Oliver can be very twee. Where is love? Where is she? You know, it's very twee. So I told Ronnie, I said, so the second scene after the orphanage where you ask for more and they get shouted at and they throw you out, you work for an undertaker on their bigger son, 3 or 4 years older than you and much heavier. He has a fight with you and you shut him in a coffin and sit on the lid. That's when you show that you're not twee, so that when you sing the songs, you don't appear twee. And I told him that. Whether it was my message to him or not, I don't know. But he was the first person I ever saw who sang Where Is Love and it not be soft and twee. He sang, Where is love? Where? And he was almost like an adult. And he was only 13, 14. And it was amazing.
He took mentoring from you and did it. This is why we have to be so careful what we pass on and make sure that information is good, is sharing that knowledge and wisdom with others. And, you know, you took direction. It seems everything that you're talking about Fatboy Slim and your nephew, it's all passing it down, isn't it? Footsteps.
It is, and the lovely thing there is you're seeing different styles of talent and different styles of ability, and it's not as though we individually help each other, but every aspect of what we do partly rubs off on the others, and suddenly you have a little more armor. You can do something else as you learn and you grow. So I've got another grandchild. He's already got a scholarship in drama. So
like you said, Johnny, it's not easy, and I think that you know, I started my career actually in that field. I did a couple of James Bond movies, and it wasn't for me because of the learning of the lines. It's hard to have that resilience. I knew I was a good communicator, and obviously had a successful career in presenting, but for me, it was tough, and I think that's what you have to have. You have to have that life is a jigsaw, isn't it? You know, one piece leads to the next. We look at your life as a jigsaw. Butlins leading to this, the RAF leading to this.
You can only follow what you're good at and celebrate what you're good at. But it knows no bounds. When I was writing my shows, I realized that there was nothing off limits. There was nothing I couldn't write about in my Think shows. And the reason was, I had a personal friend who designed in the Mitchell Beazley Joy of Knowledge, which is an encyclopedia, and it was done in the late 50s. No, it was later than that, 60s, 70s. The Mitchell Beazley Joy of Knowledge. It's the best encyclopedia I think that's ever been produced. That, I would say, was the greatest present you could buy for a young person, because everything is in there, and I mean everything. And I knew the guy who mapped out the maths section, which is 80 double pages of maths, every aspect of maths, 80 different subjects on maths, and he mapped that out. So I used to look later at that, and on every double page spread, I would say, yep, there's a television program here, and I could write a television program on that, and people thought it was marvelous, and I had a brain like that. No, I didn't. I had a book. I had the Mitchell Beasley Joy of Knowledge. And the information was there because other experts had refined the material and got it down to essentials. And all I had was my comedy experience to add the humor and make it light and funny and worry if it was heavy, what I was saying was heavy, and lighten it quickly because that's what a comedian has to do. So suddenly I'm learning from other people all the time, and that encyclopedia was just wonderful for me.
Your
And so,
dad got you yeah, in the beginning we started with encyclopedias in a way.
yeah, it is. You see, all knowledge is theft. You must steal from people who've gone before. You must learn from them and you steal from them. But then you make it your own because it comes out of your personality and it's your own. But all knowledge essentially is theft because somebody's thought of it before. So the whole human race is in a huge relay race. And all we're doing is passing the baton to the next generation. So remember, if you think when you're young, oh, I'm not fitting, you've got to fit. It's essential you fit. You're the generation that's got to fit now. And it's got to work. And you've got to make it work. Why? You've got to love learning from the people who've gone before you and love following them and then perhaps doing it better. And that's really what it's all about.
That's so powerful. And you've had a great life. You're currently having a great life. You've impacted hundreds of thousands of people all over the world with your books. And think of a number to your life in comedy and all your other books and all your teachings. Is there one particular message that you'd like to pass on to people listening today?
You've got to take the downs with the ups. You've got to be resilient and come back fighting. You've got to my wife's dad, Di's dad, was wonderful. And he had some sayings. Here's a couple of them. If life was perfect, it'd be bloody horrible. That is so true. You've got to take the rough with the smooth. And if there's a problem, what would he say? Well, he was in the Navy during the Second World War, or towards the end of the Second World War. So what did he say? Problem? Well, that's nothing on a big ship, is it? Which means whatever problem you've got against the rest of the world, it's so insignificant. Come on, get past it, get on with it, move on. And that was those lovely sayings, and if life was perfect, it'd be horrible, And if I did jokes and silly jokes, if I did a joke he didn't like, he'd say, oh, what makes you like it? And he'd correct me and knock me back into shape. And that was his attitude was lovely as well. So that's the thing. Get yourself surrounded by people who you admire for the way they think. Get you surrounded by people you admire for the work they do. Not necessarily the success in financial terms, but the confidence they have, the inner confidence, the positiveness they have. They're the people you emulate. They're the people you model. And you'll take something from them and something, adding that to your personality, that becomes a new you and a different you. And the influence doesn't show. Yeah. And the influence doesn't necessarily show, but it's there. So I could tell you so many people who have influenced me. Bob Monkhouse influenced me. Harry Seacombe influenced me. So many people influenced me. But I'd like to think I've always stood on my own as well. And it wasn't leaning on them. Suddenly, very quickly, you'll understand on your own. And that's the joy of it all.
I love that. That is amazing. So I'm going to throw this one in now. But what's the answer to the greatest problems in the world? We believe it's mentoring. What's the future for humanity? Right.
Usually, at any one time, things are pretty horrible. So Di's dad saying, if life was perfect, it would be horrible. Things are very often horrible. You know, we're paying too much tax. There's not enough jobs. We can't afford houses. All kinds of things. Young people are having to live with their parents for longer. All those things. What I did to examine this is I broke my life down into 10-year bits. So I was born in 1938, and I looked at 1948 and compared them. Well, 1938, a year later, we were in the Second World War. At the end of 1945, we were out of that, and a year later, we're out of the Japanese War. And by 1948, life was wonderful. It was wonderful. It really was. 1948 to 58. 1948 was okay, but there was still shortage of money, and people were still getting going. Still, the repercussions of the war were still there, and the atmosphere was filthy. We had deep smogs in London that people couldn't see. But I remember in places like Liverpool, where I would walk down one side of the road and a mate on the other side of the road looking for somewhere, a club that I was going to work at, and we couldn't see each other across the road. The fog was so deep. The 1958 Clean Air Act stopped most of that. So from 48 to 58, we had clean air. Now the buildings, when I was at school, every building was black. We now clean our buildings and they stay that color.
Wow.
So when they say the atmosphere is terrible these days, you don't know the half of it, and it's much better than it was all through the Industrial Revolution, because life goes on and we cope, whether it's raining today, warm today, cold today, whatever, we cope with it. And that doesn't really affect us. So the earth is stronger than we think. And although we are awaiting it, and we must always look to stop polluting and stop damaging the earth and look after other creatures and other plants and everything. Although we've got to keep doing that, don't overthink that we're going to hell in a handcart, because we are not. It's not the case. We will cope. Remember, our ancestors lived through an ice age and survived it, right? So we can survive that. And things aren't as bad as you think, because the world is stronger than mankind. So have more confidence, and have more confidence. As I split my life in 10-year pieces. If you do that, I guarantee if you choose any year and 10 years earlier, you will say it's better today than it was 10 years ago. You will.
What a message of hope. I love that.
Yeah.
So we encourage everyone listening to look at how from color, black and white television you saw to color, to no television, to black and white television, to color television, to now how many 5Ds, 4Ds, 4Ks. It's, you know, your life has got better every 10-year blocks. And I think sometimes we can get so focused on the doom and gloom, but actually man is stronger than we think. The planet is stronger than we think. And that is a message of hope and resilience for the nation here.
And that's the thing you've got to remember as well. So what I say to people, and said at the end of the show, remember this: the future is brighter than any one of us can even imagine. Stick with that and you won't go far wrong.
I think that this is the message of hope that the nations needed to hear right now. You are living proof that, you know, you've been unstoppable in your energy, and that age really doesn't have a barrier to brilliance. So I really wish that you continue to keep sharing your wisdom with everyone. And like you say, we need to come together. We need to all work together. You know, just thank you for supporting our mission to make mentoring accessible to everyone, and for your lifetime's work, you know, leaving your legacy here with us today to, you know, you make people laugh, you make people learn. But I feel from this show that, you know, you really make people believe that anything's possible. And that is absolutely key to our mission, is, you know, passing on what you know, passing that baton. You are a national treasure, as I keep saying. You're our National Mentoring Day treasure. And of course, you know, you've written 9 books in over 40 languages. I've got a couple of them here. And, you know, we just encourage people to keep seeking, keep learning. And for you, Johnny, keep sharing, because the world needs to hear your voice. So thank you so much for coming on. And it's been a pleasure and an honor. And it's also been a really good fun to hear all your wonderful stories. This is why the stories must be told. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.